From 3/4 of a mile to a gigantic 2-mile monster, it is the Michigan International Speedway. We go racing in the Motor City or close to it. We break it all down for you. Our favorite bets, our favorite DFS plays. It's coming up right now on the Backroad.
All right, everyone. Well, welcome into the Backroad. It is In Between Media's Fantasy NASCAR betting preview show. Seth, maybe we'll play the theme song at the end this time. We'll do a little switcheroo there. That's all right. We were just talking about mouse troubles beforehand. Gotta love live broadcasting, guys. Well, hey, I'm Elliot Hicks. With me, Seth Woolcock and Rod Villagomez, and we are heading to the Michigan International Speedway for the FireKeepers Casino 400. Seth, this is going to be a fun one this week, isn't it?
Boys, it is time to rev the fuck up. Like this last month, I think a lot of people, unless you were on Chris Buescher last week, it's been an up and down month of July. Great racing. NASCAR is back. NASCAR is hot. It's in the news. Hell, I was even watching SportsCenter last night, and they were talking a little bit of NASCAR as well. So now is the time that we rev the fuck up. We're heading to the Great Lakes State, baby. I'm pumped up. Rod, how are you feeling, my friend?
Jimmy Johnson's in the Hall of Fame. Nothing else matters at this point. I absolutely am stoked to see that 48 car. Jimmy in the Hall of Fame.
Chad Knaus is in too, so you got both of them in the same year. That'll be really neat.
Both of them are in. And look, I mean, it doesn't matter. I know my co-host Cody on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast is fired up that it's not unanimous. Look, haters gonna hate, right? I don't care. They cannot do it unanimously. As long as he's in, he's in. But yeah, Seth, I'm pumped. Elliot, I'm pumped. I'm ready for Michigan. Let's go.
No doubt about it. And hey, the Hall of Fame situation, you know, he's not unanimous, but he was close enough. Even in baseball, you know, they've only had one unanimous guy ever, and there's been how many great baseball players. Point is, they're all deserving, and congratulations to Jimmy and Chad and them.
Also, shout out Wendy in the chat. She said she's been to this track before. It's a great place to watch a race. Elliot, this is one on my bucket list. I'm going to be honest. Michigan does not get enough love, and we're not that far from it. So I think we might have to make a little venture up that way eventually.
There we go. Consider this a semi-official announcement In Between Media heading to Michigan next year. Detroit is much closer to Pittsburgh than I anticipate, and Seth, you can make it out western Pennsylvania, and we can drive the rest of the way up. But that's next year. We'll talk about this year, and first we will step back and take a look in the rear view at Richmond. I've been waiting for it. We've been waiting for it on the show for a while. I've been talking about it so much, doing a complete 180 on RFK, being completely down on them at the start of the year. They've run well. We've seen Keselowski run up front. We've seen Buescher run up front. They both dominated this race at Richmond, and Chris Buescher walked away with a well-deserved victory. And we saw both RFK and Ford really dominate at the short track this past weekend.
Man, it was crazy how quick both of those guys came out. And it's kind of the same old story for old Brad K. Lead a shit ton of laps, don't get the win. But RFK, congratulations. Welcome back to the winning circle. I feel like we should have been on him, Rod. I know I wasn't on the show with you guys last week, but I still put out a column and a card. And I feel like we should have been on Buescher because we know how good he was at Richmond in 2022. It was just those shorter, flatter tracks he had not been that good at. So that was kind of one where we got deceived a little bit by the earlier in the season stats.
Well, I know. So Underdog has been putting out the over or the higher or lower than positions. And when later in the week, we did kind of cover Chris Buescher as far as being over his projected finishing total. And I mean, we talked about it too with RFK. It's just, both of them have been hanging around each other, right? I mean, both cars seem to be running within a position or two of each other almost every single race. And if we felt like Brad Keselowski was going to be a top 10 car, then Chris Buescher was obviously going to be somewhere in that vicinity as well. And imagine him being in first, but being a top 10 car was definitely in the realm of possibility for them both. And they both finished that way. So yeah, I mean, we probably should have picked him to be a little higher than that, but hey, at least we were on him to be a little higher than 10th.
And Elliot, I think this is a great point that we often in our tiers at each and every episode of the Backroad, we often have them right next to each other. I think because more than ever, RFK is one of those teams that they do their setups very similar between the two drivers. It doesn't seem like it's that way across a lot of these teams, even some of these two-person teams like Trackhouse. But more than ever, if you're invested in Brad, it might be a good idea to get invested in Buescher moving forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, and a good point. They made that point on the NBC broadcast too. These guys are always around each other. When they hit, they both hit. And I think what helps too is with some of these teams, you have different drivers at different talent levels. I think right now where Buescher and Keselowski are probably pretty similar. Obviously, Keselowski had a higher peak. I don't know that Chris Buescher is going to sit here as a champion of the Cup Series at some point. But Keselowski kind of coming down a teensy bit from his prime, and Buescher kind of on the come up or in his prime. They're certainly running well together, and congratulations to them for getting the win. Like you said, got to feel bad for Brad. Probably had the win in his hands, had that mistake on pit road where he just couldn't get in there straight. And shout out to a couple other guys running up front too. Ryan Preece, he's been a guy who's been much maligned on this show, but I think we put him in our tiers, Rod, if I remember, just because of short track experience. And thankfully that paid off. He ended up with, I believe, a top 5 finish or close to it.
It was a super weird day just to have some of these guys who we haven't seen much of all season run so strongly. Shout out Martin Truex Jr. This guy continues to just defy everything. He was sitting around 30th most of the day, got creative in his strategy, ends up pulling out a pretty good day. Him over Bell was the only thing I hit on my card. So shout out to MTJ continuing to win us money over here at the Backroad. And then, Rod, what was up with Kyle Larson and some of these Hendrick cars last week, man? Like Kyle Larson, that was his first truly off race of the season. A lot of these times when he doesn't finish well, I feel like he's getting involved in some type of wreck. This was all on him, man.
Yeah, and it's weird because when we saw the dominance of Hendrick Motorsports, obviously over the last few years, it's just they were always a threat no matter what. And Kyle Larson was a part of that, right? Obviously, Jimmy Johnson was a large part of that. And it just seemed like every week they would be where I guess even RFK is right now in the top 5, in the top 10, threatening for a win. You don't see that. And Elliot got hurt. Bowman got hurt. And I don't know what it is about Kyle. Maybe he's doing too much extracurricular racing, because he even said it himself after he got in that wreck with Denny Hamlin. I know it seems weird, but at the same time, it's like, sometimes you feel like I'm trying to get away from it and you get too far away from it. And maybe that's what Kyle Larson's doing. His problems on the track might just be a circular motion where he's trying to get over what just happened, and yet he's getting farther away from what he's actually supposed to be doing on the track. I'm not saying that's the reason, but you don't see the same Kyle Larson.
I mean, you have an all right point there, but I think this may be a teensy bit of an overreaction. Hendrick just completely missed on their setup, I feel like. Byron was...
Oh, looks like we lost you, Elliot, there.
Elliot didn't run well. Bowman didn't run well. None of those guys ran well. Sorry if you lost me there in the middle of that.
Oh, I think you
with Bowman's issues, I really understand, not running a whole bunch of different races, but, at the end of the day, that may be a good point. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Either way, guys, we're going to close the book here on Richmond. It was fun for a couple of us. Shout out to everyone who rode that Chris Buescher outright. I saw a lot of tickets getting cashed out on Twitter. We're excited for that. Excited anytime anyone wins in this industry. And I think the books kind of left one hanging last week. So congrats to you guys. And let's go ahead. Let's look forward to Michigan and hopefully a little bit of rebound for the Backroad boys here in Horizon Forecast.
Only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
All right, so we are heading to Michigan, 2-mile D-shaped oval, and the tracks that we're looking at that are pretty similar are some of the high-speed intermediates, Seth.
Yeah, so this is interesting. We're going to have low tire wear again. We know we're going to see that this weekend. And, of course, we're going to comp it with Auto Club, Kansas. They call that the mini Michigan, Vegas, and Charlotte. However, the one thing I'm not seeing out there, and when we went to Pocono a couple weeks ago, one of our comp tracks was Michigan, and I thought that kind of led us not astray at all. I thought that was pretty good data we accounted for. So, Rod, are you taking all these other tracks, Auto Club, Kansas, Vegas, Charlotte, into account, and any Pocono love as well? Because I think that's the most recent form that we can draw a little bit and apply it to Michigan, this bigger two-mile track.
Well, we know that obviously Pocono's got the fast straightaways, right, and the different types of corners, and we're in for Michigan where it's a lot of banking, it's a lot of speed, like you said, so you can kind of take that into consideration. But I think Auto Club and the past Michigan is where I'm really just kind of hanging the rest of it out, because obviously Auto Club, a 2-mile track in and of itself. I mean, you can take some of these intermediates as well, but it doesn't play into the speed that Michigan has. So I feel like we're in for obviously a much faster race in Michigan, speeds of well over 190, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you gotta kind of take Michigan as its own beast. And hats off to NASCAR too for kind of doing this to us, where they're giving us sort of individualized tracks now. The cookie cutter mile and a halves sort of don't play into the way they used to, and you got to just approach them as their own track.
A couple trends we should be looking at this week as well, gentlemen. Ford, they've won the last 8 straight. 5 of those are our guy Kevin Harvick over there in the number 4 car. And then before that, it was Larson for 3 straight as well. 5 of the last 7 winners have come from the top 3 starting position. However, 2 of the last 3 have come from 16 plus in that grid. Those were both Kevin Harvick in last year, 2022, and then 2020 as well. Elliot, anything to take away from those stats? Are you high on Ford again this week after a big showing at Richmond?
Yeah, I'm definitely high on Ford. This is their backyard there in Detroit. And like you mentioned, Ford has won so often here. The last time Chevy was able to get a win was Larson when he was still with Chip Ganassi Racing. And that's a good point with the Harvick there. I don't remember about last year, but in 2020, he swept a doubleheader, and I believe they inverted the top 16 finishers for the second race. So that would have put Harvick back there. So keep that in mind for your trend. They're running the same car both days. So he brought in the race-winning car. So he drove up in 16th, but it wasn't a car that was a 16th place car by any means.
Right. A couple comments here in the chat. We got Katie saying hello to us. Hey, Katie, thanks for tuning in tonight. We appreciate you. Then we have Brian saying he was rocking the Busher hat all week, but did not get down on the outright. Got the top 10. Sorry, Brian. That happens to the best of us, man.
Still got the top 10 money. I mean,
yeah, you could be Elliot and call out the SVG outright, not get down on it. So could be worse there. He's also saying Auto Club was cold as fuck. Any worry that could affect the comparables? And I will say Auto Club is, out of all these comp tracks, the one I looked at the least, just because it was so early in the season. Mm-hmm. And the temperature is a great part I didn't even think about, Brian. So I think that's another reason to write Auto Club off just a little bit more. But as Rod kind of said, this is our own beast as well.
And it's tough, though, because looking at the track comparison, Auto Club is probably the most similar to Michigan. So
Yes. Yeah. And Nick saying here, you said Harvick, I win. LOL. You guys are the best. We appreciate you, Nick, hanging out with us tonight, man. Practice qualifying, guys, it's going to get underway on Saturday. So if you're investing in a little Saturday sweat with us, make sure you're down by early on Saturday. And then stages this week, a little bit funky again. Lap 45, lap 120, and lap 200. Elliot, does this steer you away from betting any of those win stage 1, 2, and 3 or win stage 2 and 3? Michigan's a track. It's never one I feel like we usually see one person dominate the whole thing.
We usually don't see it, but it does happen once in a while. We'll have to take a look at those numbers and the props and see what they look like for this week, because it's always worth a peek for me, just in case you have one guy pull out a real dominating day, because it has been done a number of times.
Okay. Rod, is there anything other than recent performance, the comp tracks we talked about in 2022 Michigan, that you're pulling in for your data this week?
So we've looked a lot too about how they've been doing lately. And I know that sometimes always gets in the wash, because momentum is a gigantic thing in sports in general, and obviously in racing, because, you bet one guy earlier in the season and he falls off, right? It's all of a sudden Martin Truex, you start not betting Martin Truex, and then he gets hot, and then you got to start betting Martin Truex again. So we took into factor a lot of momentum this week too, because there's a lot of drivers who are good on this track, but haven't necessarily been good lately. So does that trend turn itself around? Something's got to give. So which one is it going to be?
Yeah, I think we should find that out. How about it, Elliot?
Yeah, let's take a closer look in the tire tiers. All right, so driver updates for the week. We've got our main 36 charter cars, as well as the 62 of Austin Hill, Seth's favorite team in the garage. JJ Yaley is in the 15. Cole in the 51, and Josh Bilicki in BJ McLeod's number 78. All right, Rod, where do we want to start off in the A's?
Listen, do I have to? I almost don't want to do it because I'm going to get laughed at because it happens every week. So you know where to go. Just move that little. There you go. There you go. This guy has not finished worse than first in 5 of the last 7. I don't have to say anything else, but I will, because on top of that, he has led 737 total laps around this track, which is more than the next active driver on this list, which is actually, it's funny because on where I look, right? So it's got Kevin Harvick at 737, but it's got Greg Biffle still up here at 594. But Joey Logano has 590. He's the next active driver on this list. As far as DFS concerned, you're going to have to put him in one of your lineups. So you might as well just put him as the A-est of A's.
Nothing wrong with sticking with the Biff for sure. And nothing wrong with sticking with Harvick at one of his best tracks. Like I said, I like the Fords this week. My first pick will be a Chevrolet, though. I'm going to throw Kyle Larson up in the A's. We just talked about how Hendrick kind of got their ass kicked last week. And if I know one thing about Hendrick Motorsports, they don't often let their asses get kicked 2 times in a row, you know. Obviously, this is a Ford-dominated track, but I think that Chevrolet is going to have something to say about this race. Larson is 3rd best on tracks like this season. Of course, he's been dominant here even when he wasn't in one of the better cars in the garage. When he was, I don't want to say struggling at Chip Ganassi Racing, but obviously he wasn't ripping off 10 wins and a title in the number 42 car when he was driving there. But Michigan was always one of his best tracks. I don't see why it won't be the same this weekend.
All right, so we have a Ford, we have a Chevy. Throw Toyota up there. Denny Hamlin, the number 11 car. This is a guy who just straight up popped in the model this week, and I think you have to follow him. Number 1 in total speed ranking across all high-speed intermediates this season. He won Pocono, the other track I'm taking into account this weekend as well. Looking back at Michigan from a year ago, number 1 in total speed ranking, fastest late in a run as well. And this team, man, they are firing. Average finish of 3.3 over the last 3 races, and top 6 in total speed ranking in 10 of the last 12. So you go back last 3 months, Denny Hamlin has been statistically one of the fastest cars on the track. I think that continues up here up on Lake Michigan, baby. Back to you, Rod.
All right. Well, I'll throw, I said then I made a case from earlier today as we were taping our Friday show for the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Let's put William Byron up there. William Byron, basically 4th in total speed rankings as far as high-speed intermediate tracks so far. 12th at Auto Club, not really good. 1 at Vegas, 11th at Kansas, came back 2nd at Charlotte. It's got a 6.5 average speed ranking. He's been one of those Hendrick cars, just like you said, that doesn't like getting beat a lot, right? And
yeah.
He started out the season hot. This is what we're talking about, momentum, right? He started out the season hot, cooled off a little bit. I think this may be an opportunity for him as they start heading into the playoffs to get hot again. So give me the 24 car.
Can't disrespect that pick. Again, going with who's hot here, I'll throw Martin Truex Jr. up on the board. He was 10th in the speed ranking at Auto Club, but no worse than 4th in the last 3 high-speed intermediates. Again, this is more of a hot hand thing for me. Obviously, he's had decent runs at Michigan. Price at 10.5, not my favorite, but hey, the A's are going to be a little expensive. We say it every week. I like the 19 in the A's this week.
Yeah, speaking of hot hands, guys, we have to go with Tyler Reddick here. This is a guy, I don't like playing him a lot in fantasy. I don't like betting on him just because the finishes aren't always there. However, he's been lights out lately, top 4 speed in the total speed rankings, courtesy of iFantasy Race in back-to-back weeks on 2 very different tracks. Pocono, he looked great and also looked great at Richmond as well. So I'm going to follow him. I'll talk a little bit more about some of his advanced metrics in the next segment. But yeah, give me some number 45 this week, boys.
All right. So I think, are we ready to go to the B's? Because I don't know that too many more A's are in.
Yeah.
All right. So I know that Cody is high on Bubba Wallace, and I'll go.
Everybody is, but yeah, I don't get. Explain this one to me, okay, Rod. I've been trying to look for it.
You know, and that's the thing with me too. Like, I'm honestly trying to figure out how it is that he's everyone's so high on him. I know on our buddy iFantasyRace.com, they've got him as the 3rd in total speed ranking overall here for Michigan. And overall, what is he? 7th overall, 15th at Auto Club, 5th at Vegas, 4th at Kansas, 11th at Charlotte, right? I get all of that. But like, you look at what he's done on this track in particular. Last year, he started on the pole, finished 2nd. I think that's where everybody's getting the excitement from, right? But he was 19th place the week before that, 21st place the week before that. or the year before that rather. So I don't know. I mean, maybe you're just hoping for a good DFS day out of him. If obviously this is our DFS tiers. He's coming off of 3 respectable finishes in a row, right? Which is good for him after a pretty decent stretch of not so good finishes. So an 8th at Loudon, 11th at Pocono, 12th at Richmond. Those are pretty solid finishes. Now, granted, at Richmond, he started 5th and ended 12th, so that's not a good DFS day. But maybe the hype around this is that we're hoping for a good second place finish like he had last year here. I'm only bringing this up for conversation because I need somebody else to sell me on it as well.
I mean, now that you point out those advanced metrics there, Rod, I am a little more intrigued, to be honest. And looking at what he's done at those high-speed intermediates this season as well, it's been pretty decent. Top 5 speed at Vegas and Kansas. We know he's always good at Kansas. Charlotte, 11th, Auto Club 15th in speeds. Like, he's been around. Elliot, are you intrigued at all for the 23? Because I think now, the Rod kind of points it out. Maybe that was an error on my part of not really maybe valuing the 23 like I should this week.
Yeah, we made the point that Kansas is basically a mini Michigan, and 2311 has consistently kicked ass at Kansas, so this is a good pick here. I'm going to throw Kyle Busch up here in the Bs, 5th best at the high-speed intermediates. Ran well on a short track last week, which has not been Kyle Busch's MO of late. Found a way to run well at Richmond. I think they're going to keep the momentum going.
Yeah, I don't mind that play at all. I'm going to go with a little bit of a history call here, and it's got to be Chase Elliott. I think Chase Elliott deserves it. You look at what he's done at Michigan. I know it hasn't been the Chase Elliott as of late, but still, I mean, pretty decent average finishes since he's been back from that suspension at Gateway. 8.6 in those 7 races, 83% top 10 rate here. That's what I think you're getting with Chase Elliott here. And while we are factoring DraftKings pricing, we have to factor in our Fantrax pricing as well for the season-long format. And Chase Elliott is still a value over there somewhere around the $16, $17 mark. So I like Chase Elliott a lot. I think you're getting a little bit of a salary relief, at least for Chase Elliott and his standards at 9,500 on DraftKings. So sign me up for the number 9 this week, boys.
All right. Well, I will take the number 20 car of Christopher Bell.
Gross.
Yeah, I know it feels gross, but if we're talking Truex, if we're talking Hamlin, Bell, I think, can outlast himself on this one. Well, last season was not probably a good indicator of this. He started second, finished 26, but he did lead 31 laps out of the whole thing. And I know it's not a fun guy to talk about very often. And in fact,
yeah.
3 of the 4 races that he's had so far have been absolute junkers. Right, 23rd at Atlanta, 29th at Loudon, 20th at Richmond. But he did have a 6th place at Pocono. Had a terrible day at Auto Club, but he did start on the pole, so speed was there initially for Bell. So, I mean, again, if we're talking DFS, it's probably not a bad idea to throw Bell in there and pray to God that he actually finishes this race.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty high on Bell last week, and it was pretty disappointing. Didn't qualify well, didn't run super hot in the race, but
no, he was dog shit last week. Like probably his worst run of the whole year, honestly.
Yeah, so they're definitely hoping for a bounce back this week. All right, so I go 1 of 2 ways here. I'll go with the 22 of Logano though, rather than the 12 of Blaney. I kind of like Penske this week with the Ford dominance. We saw Blaney go out there and win Charlotte, but Logano at more of a value, 9,300 on DraftKings compared to 9,700, averaging about the same amount of points. Logano's got the champion, the veteran sort of acumen here. We know that Ford likes to win here. We know that Roger Penske likes to win here. This isn't the best year for Penske, of course, when 1 of your 3 cars run as bad as the 2 car does. That'll happen. But with Penske here, they don't like to be embarrassed either. I think they're going to want to put out a good showing up at the home of the Blue Oval. So Logano, I think, is my favorite in the Penske camp this week.
Yeah, if we're high on Fords, we've got to be high on Logano. We have to be high on Blaney a little bit as well. This guy's a 50% top 10 rate coming into Michigan this week. He's won here as well, 5 top 10s or 5 top 5s in his career as well, in just 14 races. So I think Ryan Blaney, he's not a sexy pick, like you said. I think the price tag's a little bit high here, Elliot, but if I want to ride Logano like I do in a couple lineups, I'm going to have Blaney in a couple as well. So yeah, I'll take the number 12 here. Rod, anyone else in C tier or B tier before we drop down in the C's?
Yeah, actually, I want to throw Brad Keselowski in there, but I also want to reiterate that I love the Joey Logano play. That's who I was going to take anyways. Logano, 3 out of the last 4 rather have been all top 10 finishes. 2 of those top 5. So good for him. But for Brad Keselowski, look, if we're talking DFS, even his bad finishes haven't been, or his not so good finishes, I should say, have been decent for DFS last season. And we talk about last season, RFK being absolute garbage. Anyways, he went from 33rd to 15th. That's a pretty good DFS day as far as place differential is concerned. The year before that, he started 20th, finished 9th. So pretty good on that. But Brad Keselowski overall on this track, 25 starts, 7 top 5s, 13 top 10s. So he's definitely one that can get around to this track as well. So I like some Brad Keselowski at the bottom end of the tier of B, because at least he can get you some points and some good fantasy points.
Hometown race for him too. So definitely a big factor. I think I'm going to crack open the C's and throw Ty Gibbs up here. I've been higher and higher on Gibbs. I've been higher and higher on him as the weeks are going on. Had the top 5 at Pocono, ended up 15th at Richmond, but ran pretty well. He was 6th in the total speed ranking at Kansas, 17th at Charlotte. But hey, Kansas, we've seen the Toyotas run well here with 23-11. Ty Gibbs was in that car and ran well last fall. I think that the arrow's just still going up for this 54 car. I expect another good run.
2 things to note about the 54 car as well. Ty Gibbs, he has a win here, and Xfinity, he will also be double dutying this week as well. So I think a little more intrigue there from Ty Gibbs. I like that call, Elliot.
Whatever his Xfinity outright is, probably jump on that.
It is short. Well, I think it's 3.5, 4.5. He is the favorite pretty early in the week, but
it's about plus 400 depending on where you find it, which is actually pretty good considering the fact that he is the favorite going in away.
Yeah. So it might be worth a look there as well. 8,400 is worth a look for our guy Chris Buescher coming off his win here. What can you say about Chris Buescher, man? Averaging almost 36 DraftKings points. And if we're high on Brad, we have to be high on Buescher as well. I think we could even make the argument for a C tier for Chris Buescher. I don't expect him to be nearly as fast as he was last week, obviously, but this is a guy who comes into this race with 9 top 20s in his 12 appearances. So you can expect stability from Chris Buescher. That's what you're getting here. You're not going to get a ton of upside, but you're getting a very high floor here. It might be a little bit chalkier than most weeks coming off the win for a guy Chris Buescher, but shout out to him. And yeah, I'm in a lineup or 2.
Yeah, I'll take that. Throw the 43 car up there of Eric Jones. The guy you guys got your interview with, which, by the way, if you didn't notice, made our best bets video on the SGPN. So you got that in there. That was awesome. But for Eric Jones on this track, he actually had an 8th place finish last season and led 5 laps in this race. So is that going to happen again? Probably not. But he is averaging you at just over 28 fantasy points per race. And his salary this week is about $7,300. Which about a little more than 3 times his value on this one. And for Eric Jones, 3 out of the last 4, even go back to Nashville, 8th place, Chicago 16th, Atlanta 11th, Loudon 11th, Pocono 9th. Last week was his first terrible finish in a long time. So got to give it to Eric Jones. He's actually been doing really well lately. I know he wants to win, but hell, we'll take a top 10 out of him for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, no doubt about that. 43 is not a bad pick. I'll stick in the 40s, and I'll throw the 48 up there. A big surprise, I know. I'm lower on the 48 than everyone else is this week, though. I don't doubt, obviously the numbers are good. 6th in total speed ranking across the high-speed intermediates, although he did miss Kansas. Throughout his career, it's these high-speed intermediate tracks that he's run the best on. But this team in the summer slump, this team with the most pressure on them that they've had in years to get a win, get into the playoffs, I'm back and forth on whether I trust him to run well, but the industry's pretty high on him. I think this is about the spot to put Bowman, though, with those numbers coinciding with that summer slump. I think he's a C- at best.
Yeah, that's where we are with Alex Bowman right now. And I think, unfortunately, that's where we're at with our guy Ross Chastain, too. Put him up here. It's just been so inconsistent from Ross. He comes out and has lights out speed at Nashville. We haven't really seen it since from really him or Suarez. But Michigan's intriguing. This is a place where he did not start very well last season, 22nd. However, after that first stage, he was all the way up in 6th. Went on to lead 29 laps. However, had that pit road penalty while he was in 3rd. And just kind of ended up battling with Bell and falling out of this race after wrecking, Chris Bell. So maybe that's how this one goes. It's a risk versus reward play for Ross Chastain here. He's all the way down the C tier, but he is $9,000. So one of the more values you're going to get on the number one car this season.
Ugh. I mean, that's pretty yucky, honestly. It sucks because Ross Chastain was such a beloved guy for like all of last season, and that shine is definitely worn off. Okay,
baby.
I know you do. And you bleed Trackhouse, which is good. Somebody needs to. All right, let's throw the number 3 car up there, Austin Dillon in the C's. What's crazy is that I had zero interest in him whatsoever, and really just couldn't even stomach the fact that I would want to put him anywhere. But Cody made a compelling point on the show that sort of, if nothing else for DFS, I will definitely roll with this because if you look at his stats at Michigan, they're not really that great. However, for DFS purposes, they're okay. Last season, he started 26th, finished 13th. The season before that, started 26th, finished 36th. The season before that, 31st to 8th. It hasn't necessarily been a great overall run for Austin Dillon here on Michigan. However, for DFS purposes, last week he got you 43 points, but the week before that he lost you 3. The week before that he got you 40. The week before that 35. He lost you 2. The week before that got you 43 there. So the pattern is he'll get you some and then he'll lose you some. Hopefully this isn't the week where he loses you some. Hopefully he goes 2 weeks in a row getting you good points and then loses you some. So if that's the pattern, he's still got one good week left before he loses you points. So
a little bit of an Indian giver right there. That's old Austin Dillon. What else do we have here, Elliot?
There's a couple more guys that are tempting me in the C's. There's only one I'll throw up here though for now. I'll throw the 99 up there, Daniel Suarez. Again, not perfect numbers. He's a guy who's just kind of been around this year, but 3rd in total speed ranking at Auto Club, 10th at Vegas, 14th overall in the high-speed intermediates on the total speed ranking. Shout out, as always, to iFantasy Race for those rankings. Trackhouse, kind of similar to RFK. There's definitely more variation there, but usually one is going to run right about where the 99 is going to run. I think they're both C-minuses this week.
Okay. Can we drop down to the D's? I think we're pretty good to level on down here. I'm going to take a stab at it. I'm going to do a little 2-pack here, if that's okay. Ricky Stenhouse Jr.,
he was the other guy I was thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been consistency at this point. He's actually shown some speed at these higher speed intermediates as well this season. And he's still averaging over 30 DK points for the price you have to get him. I like the number 47 car. And hey, how about we take a little bit of a dive here and go off the edge with AJ Allmendinger? This is a guy who won here in the Xfinity Series not that long ago as well. Has finished as high as 11th in a Cup car at Michigan. He's running better as of late, so I don't mind AJ Allmendinger this week as well.
Yeah, I got a soft spot for AJ, but I don't know that I like him. He burnt me last week on that road course race. That literally did not bring the car to and Olive Colleague, man. Like, what's up with your brakes? Just let's fix that. But yeah, I mean, on this track as far as DFS, okay. Well, I'll go with that. Let's go with Eric Almirola. He's a driver. He'll log laps. He may get you some differential points. He may get you a top 15 finish if you're lucky. I don't even need his track stats to know that this is a disgusting play, but we'll do it anyways.
Yeah, we're really starting to get down to the dumps here even a little earlier. I'm thinking one of the front row guys. I think McDowell's worthy of a D. Generally he's not really going to shit the bed. The speed rankings are all right, 19th at Vegas, right around 25th otherwise, and that's right about where he is here. Again, some differential points. He's a guy that'll keep the car clean. That's about all there is to say. He's more consistent than these other guys left on the board for sure.
Yeah, how about we get it a little weird? Let's go Austin. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not doing Austin Hill. Beard Motorsports.
I thought you were going to say Cendric, but
no,
let's not count Austin Hill out. I you know what?
18th place finish. Remember, he does have a Cup start here. 18th place in that one start. No, I'm just I'm just kidding. Yeah, please don't put him up there.
Yeah.
Man, if I have to go with it, I want to drop down again to the F. Throw Ryan Preece in there. Ryan Preece coming off that really good performance. However, he doesn't have a lot. Five Cup Series starts for him, 1 top 10. So you can do worse than Ryan Preece, I think, this week. Also throw Harrison Burton on there. This is a guy who did really well at Pocono, Also has a top 10 at Darlington, some of these faster, higher speed tracks. I'll talk a little more about Harrison Burton in the betting segment, but I have a soft spot for the number 21 this week. So give me some of him. Give me some of the Priest if I'm looking for dart throws.
I don't see anything up there I even like. I'm tempted to just tell Elliot to do the one sentence on the rest of these guys because honestly, look, yeah, I can't tell you. I want to say Gragson, but I can't. So that's the only other one that I would reach to. So you guys, yeah, if you want to do the sentences, I think now's a good time for it because I can't fathom anything else on there.
Seth, you got anyone else you want to throw in the Fs?
Put Justin Haley on the board. I mean, still just plugging away. It hasn't been beautiful, but the guy's still doing good for DraftKings points, almost 29 per game. So yeah, Justin Haley. Outside of that, like if you want to show some respect to Todd Gillen at 5,300, Corey Lajoie, you can, but you can leave him off as well. I got nothing else.
All right. In terms of the tier Fs, I'm thinking the 38 and the 14. Any objection to throwing them in the Fs at least?
No.
Yeah, because they're guys, I mean, more upside than the rest of these guys on the board. Todd Gillen in front row, they run all right. They're both in Fords, Fords, Michigan. We're expecting them to run well. In terms of these other guys, Austin Cindric, I mean, we don't need to beat a dead horse anymore,
Dude,
you could surprise us, but go ahead, Seth.
He's a lanky motherfucker. Saw him in person at Pocono, and I was surprised how lanky he was. Came out, qualified top 10, had a decent run there. But yeah, I mean, when you're like averaging less points than our guy BJ, Josh Bilicki, JJ Yaley, like you don't deserve to be in the tiers, especially when you're in a Penske Ford. So I'm fucking done with number 2. I don't even want to talk about him the rest of the season, honestly, if I'm being frank with you guys.
Yeah, unless we see something else, I'm down with that. Corey Lajoie, he was the hot hand of early in the year, but even the runs on tracks that we've seen the 7-car run well at this year are just not coming anymore. I mean, good for him. Congratulations on buying into the project. He's signed a multiple-year extension with Spire, he said on his Stack and Pennies podcast. So he's there for the long haul, and I certainly hope they do continue to grow. But just these last couple of weeks, even these last couple of months, not quite as strong as we had seen early in the year from Lajoie. Noah Gragson, I mean, it's been a tough slog at Legacy. Not much more to say.
Didn't he just have a good run somewhere, though? Wasn't it like better? I'd have to check it out. But
he didn't finish last. Yeah, that's pretty much where we were at on that one.
I'm pretty sure that he's had more finishes in the 30s than he has out of there. I think that in terms of the full-time drivers, he's last or next to last in points but there was penalties to Jones, penalties to Briscoe. Obviously, they're still behind, but in terms of full-time drivers without penalties, Gragson is near the bottom. It has not been the season that he wanted. Rickware Racing, you got Yaley in the 15, Custer in the 51. Maybe a little more upside than if it was, some of these other guys. They put
throw Cole Custer up there, man. Because
I was going to say, put the 51 up there. Because if nothing else, he's the cheapest out there. He's a 50. How much is he right now?
5,100 on DraftKings. He's the bare minimum on Fantrax. If you're playing over there, $5. I'm rolling with a $5 footlong of Cole Custer on Fantrax this week, baby. So yeah, I'll take him. Like him and Ryan Newman in that ride has at least made it better. I'm excited to see what Haley can do when he gets over there and like at least elevate this team a little bit.
Right. If he can at least get you 23 points like he did the last time he drove Cole Custer, that's 4 times what you paid for him. That's not going to lose you a tournament.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And then we got the 62, they run big tracks. They run all right. But with Beard Motorsports, there's not much you can say. Same with the 78 of Bilicki. Same with the 77 of Ty Dillon. These are guys that, the bigger the track is usually, I mean, this happens at short tracks too, but usually these underfunded cars are not going to be able to keep up. So,
yeah, not at the non-super speedways. Yeah, for sure. And there is nothing good we can say about Beard Motorsports without possibly getting sued. So I'm just gonna say case closed on that one right there, boys.
Case closed is about the perfect way to go with it, Seth. Let's get into our props in the parking garage.
Yeah, parking garage props. Looking for that drop. There we go.
Alrighty, well, there is our props in the parking garage. What do we have for this week? I guess we'll start off with the outrights as normal, right?
Yeah. I think we're going to cover a couple different markets tonight. Overall, we're going through an issue right now, I think, in the NASCAR gambling space, is some of these books are now going through a different algorithm process where we're not getting as many prop odds early in the week. So it's hard for us being content creators, analysts around this sport. So we're doing the best we can, I think, here. But, we've said it for a couple weeks now. Barstool, please get your shit together. We'd appreciate you. We gave you a lot of love early in the season. We need you back. But Rod, impressions of the books, and where would you like to go in the outright market here?
So impression of the books is that, once again, it just feels like it's a little sluggish on what we get and when we get it, or it's inconsistent. So like you said, as content creators, as bettors, okay, you can wait a couple days, but as content creators, we want to get you guys actionable content as soon as possible.
Yes.
So let's go. Where do I want to go first? Surprise, surprise. And the only reason I'm giving you Kevin Harvick as an outright winner is because at 10-1 on Superbook, how in the world is he 10-1? He's won 5 of the last 7 races. Guys, I know he hasn't won a race all season, but he didn't win a race all season before Michigan last year, right? And he won Michigan last year. Then he won Richmond. So it doesn't matter. Sometimes Kevin Harvick can pop off with a win like that. It's his last season. It's his last run around this track, which he's been so fantastically good. And he is not even the odds-on favorite. He's behind Hamlin, Busch, Larson, Truex, Byron. So give me Harvick at 10-1. Yes, please.
10-1's damn good. I have him on my board as plus 850 from Caesars. So this Superbook, man, really is super.
Yeah, we need to get that shit out here in Pennsylvania ASAP. Elliot, where do you want to go in this market? What's the one outright on your sheet that you're just dying to get out to the IBT listeners tonight?
Well, I've got a couple here, and sometimes I list more than I even want to necessarily talk about, just as some talking points. I do have Kyle Busch and Byron on here at plus 800. But I don't love those. I like the Harvick at plus 850 or even plus 1,000 over there on Superbook. Ty Gibbs, I mean, I'm hot on him. He's at plus 1,800, and there's an odds boost on Brad Keselowski on Caesars at plus 2,500. So that's kind of where I'm peaking at on the outrights here.
I think the one interesting thing about Ty Gibbs, and I'm trying to find ways to get him on my card. I bet him last week for the top 10, and it didn't come to fruition, so I was a little bit bummed out about that. But he did get 10th in this race last season in Kurt Busch's car. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And Elliot, you've kind of been chasing Ty Gibbs for a couple of weeks here now. I mean, damn close at Pocono, man. Like his best run of the season. That was your one big takeaway after we were there for practice and qualifying. So I understand the love there. And Rod, how do you feel about Keselowski here being the hometown kid? I love the story, but I'm just so sick of Chase and Brad in the win. I just think I'm not gonna be on it this year.
I mean, 25-1 is not a bad number, but also, like you said, it's just tough because when Brad gets there, he doesn't close it, and it's not because of lack of talent. It's just something happens, and then his teammate or his actual car, the other car in his team, goes and wins the race. So we've said, and obviously we've seen speed out of Keselowski and RFK, but I mean, listen, it's just that tough luck story of being able to close it. But again, at 25-1, if he does it, you're gonna be happy as hell for holding that Busher ticket like you did last week,
Yeah. I'll go ahead. I'll go with my outrights. The one I don't really want to talk about because I think it's just, I already kind of explained it, and I'll talk a little bit more in my column about it. It's Denny Hamlin, 6.5-1. He, in my model, he was just far and away the best driver in this field coming to Michigan. So I'm liking him there. But a little bit of a trendy pick that I already laid down on. 12-1 Tyler Reddick outright. I also have a top 10 on him, minus 140. Again, he's been showing so much speed. He's now up to 6 in the year-to-date total speed rankings. That 45 car has been lights out and was a lot better here last season than given credit for before that engine failure as well. 7th in green flag speed. And I just like what he's been doing at these comp tracks. Top 4 in total speed and finished 2nd in Pocono. 9th in speed ranking at Las Vegas, finished 15th there. 10th in speed at Kansas, finished 9th. And then Charlotte, I think that's another one of the big ones that I really comp for this track, being more recent here in the season. 3rd in speed that night, and then 5th as well as a finish. So I think Tyler Reddick's going to have a good run at it here. When I think of Tyler Reddick tracks, it's this high speed. Can he get up into the banking and make it happen? And I think that's what Michigan brings for Tyler Reddick. So I'm fired up, boys. We haven't taken him in an outright since we hit on him at, what was that, Coda, Elliot? So Yeah, so I'm excited to get back on him. Can we go 2 for 2 this season with him? Would also cash our over 1.5 wins on the season as well. So Tyler, we need you, baby.
Hey, and if Michigan doesn't go that well for him, you got 2 road courses right after this where he has been one of the better drivers in the series the last few years.
Yes. Rod, sending it back to you, man. Let's go to the placement props. What else are you liking out there? Again, kind of some limited offers right now, but is there anything that you're jonesing to get out there?
So Caesars has a boost on an Eric Jones top 10. And I know that the books like to trap you with these boosts half the time, but this one I feel like has a very, very real chance of hitting. And his boost as a top 10, 4-1 as a top 10, not even a top 5, not even a top 3, 4-1 for a top 10 car for Eric Jones.
That's on my board too. That's a great bet this week, Ron.
And we talked a little bit about how, obviously last season he finished 8th here. He started 10th. So he started inside the top 10, kept himself in the top 10 on this track last season. The last several weeks, he was knocking on the door of the top 10, right? 11th in Atlanta, 11th in Loudon, broke the door down in Pocono, finished 9th. So he got us there. Last week was a step back. That was a short track. We'll kind of massage that one out of the stat totals. But Eric Jones is probably obviously the one legacy motor club driver that you can actually rely on week to week to do well. And I think he's feeling good. You saw it in your interview, Seth, that he was like, that's yes, top 10's a moral victory for us, but we want to win. They want to win. So they've got an opportunity to at least finish in the top 10 again here. 4-1, when most of the top 10 odds for the rest of these guys are like negative 200 for a guy like William Byron, minus 285 for Larson. I'll take 4-1 as a top 10 for Eric Jones.
Elliot, what do you think here? Is there anything that sticks out in a placement prop market that a little bit desolate the last couple weeks? Still kind of same thing here this week.
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of top 3s, top 5s, top 10s. Rod kind of opened my mind to the top 3 at books last week. And the way I kind of look at it too, obviously I look at it differently because I'm not throwing down quite the same amount of coin as a lot of the other people in the industry. If I'm hot on a guy for the outright, why wouldn't I consider, their top 3, top 5, top 10 as well?
Absolutely.
Not, obviously, if you're betting a lot on all 4 of those and the guy ends up 15th, you're going to be betting a lot of different ways. But they're definitely numbers to talk about. Harvick's top 3 is at a plus 250. Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace both have the same odds at plus 340 for that top 3. Ty Gibbs' top 5 is at 375. Top 10 is at 160. Again, the top 10's not so great, but I did have that Jones one that was really big. Alex Bowman at plus 180. I don't love it, but again, it's the numbers. I would expect him to maybe run 9th to 11th all day and have a chance at that. Suarez and Buescher's top 10 is at plus 220. Not awful, not my favorite. And normally I pick out a lot of these, Caesars boosts for both to finish top 10 or all 3 to finish top 10. I saw this one that I'm going to bring up because I really don't like it with how most of these guys have run. It's got Martin Truex Jr., which I like, but then Ross Chastain and Christopher Bell all to finish top 10 at plus 340. That may be one of the worst bets I've seen. I don't have any faith in that one cashing at all. So I bring it up to say, don't bet it this week when normally I have one of those to pick out. Stay away from that one.
I would rather take my money to a deli that made sandwiches, pre-made sandwiches at like 8 in the morning and buy one at midnight when I'm drunk than take it and place it on that bet. I will not be betting on Christopher Bell anytime soon. And I'll take my chances with
not even Ross either.
Yeah, absolutely. Last one I want to throw out here. Elliot, you had a lot of very generous odds. I'm going to lay the juice. And as Rod and Cody say on the NASCAR gambling podcast every single week, you only pay the juice if you
lose.
There you go. Yes. Only paying if you lose. Minus 140 for a guy, Chase Elliott. Again, he's been better than people think. Still averaging an 8.6 finish in his 7 races since back from suspension. 10th place at Pocono. Also had top 8 speed at Auto Club and at Kansas as well. I think he's going to run pretty decent here. And I think in a time that we're seeing a lot of green flag runs, a lot of late runs, he had top 8 late run speed at Michigan. It was a down year for him at Michigan in 2022, but he still had late run speed. So I'm going to track that. I don't think he can get it done. I thought about taking him on the outright. 15-1 is where I'm getting him in a lot of places. I couldn't stomach that with just what we've kind of been seeing, but I can get down on Chase Elliott at arguably his best track that he's ever had without a win. So, let me get on Chase Elliott here at Michigan. I'm going to lay the juice. Hope I don't lose there. Minus 140. Let's go ahead. Let's shift up here. Let's get to head-to-heads and matchups. Anything, Elliot, you're seeing in this market?
Well, one more point on the top 10s. I do oftentimes pick the plus money, the generous odds, not only because, let's just say I'm not the biggest juice fan, but it seems like you guys are normally hot on there. With odds last week, what was Truex of minus 500 for a top 10? Obviously, you got that top 10. Obviously the good drivers, you only pay the juice if you lose, but you guys can drink the juice. I'll go ahead and look for the plus money and end up losing more often than not. But hey, that's what we look for here. It's almost the same thought process as saying a sentence about BJ McLeod every week when he's 25th every week, if that. We like to do it different here on the back road sometimes. Head-to-heads matchups. I do have a group matchup. If we want to save that for later, you guys can bring up heads-to-heads and matchups more specifically.
I got one here, Rod. Is there anything else? I wasn't really liking a whole lot that I was seeing out on the books this week in the matchup or head-to-head market.
So my big thing too is that if the books are going to offer these head-to-heads, please start mixing it up some. Don't give us the same driver on every single head-to-head.
Thank you.
Like, I don't look, if I'm going to take somebody over Ross Chastain, I'm taking everybody over Ross Chastain. So I don't need you to give me 15 different matchups of Ross Chastain. So that's just my 2 cents. I don't think they care, but my one that I like is actually Joey Logano over Ross Chastain. Go figure. And it's Joey Logano minus 125 over Ross Chastain. Ross Chastain is at minus 105 on this one. So listen, Ross Chastain, like we said, he poked his head out and won and then just went right back down again. So like, I'm not trusting him at all. And I think Joey Logano, as we've stated before, lots of top 10s on this track, lots of laps led on this track. He's going to have a solid finish. He drives a Ford, so he's going to be a solid finisher this week. So yeah, give me Joey Logano over Ross Chastain at minus 125.
Yeah, I don't mind that one at all. I don't really like to bet against him, but yeah, I would definitely consider that. We got Tyler here in the chat saying, I wish books would have different matchups. Seems like every books have the same matchup except Superbook. Yeah, a lot of the locals, like I know we have some friends in some different states around the industry, and they have some really cool opportunities to get invested in some different head-to-heads every week. But I'm with you, Tyler. We like betting a lot of times. Like I love the Cole Custer versus the Austin Hills bet. I kind of like these weird niche ones in the matchup department. I don't want to have to bet one, I don't want to have to bet 2 favorites against each other. And I think that's, kind of how we feel across the board here. And one of the ways I like betting matchups is when I get a feel for someone that is either doing well. I was riding Chris Buescher matchups the last couple of weeks. He's been very good to us. I've also been fading Christopher Bell, and I'm going to continue down that road. This was one that I just thought was a bit of a misprice. We have Byron going off minus 110 versus Bell, who's actually the favorite at minus 120. So very confused at this one over on Caesars. And what more can you say about Chris Bell? The dude has finished 18th or worse in 4 of his last 5 races, average finish of 17th. And I know he raced really, really good last season on this track, but I still don't think that's going to come to fruition. He's not the same driver. He doesn't have the same car as he did a year ago. William Byron, meanwhile, though, 12th in total speed ranking here last season, 10th late in a run speed. And when you look at these high-speed intermediates this season, William Byron is by far and away better than Christopher Bell. 4th best total speed ranking across those high-speed intermediates. 1st at Las Vegas, 2nd at Charlotte. So he hasn't unloaded as many rocket ships as he was early in the season. It's actually kind of been a little bit up and down these last couple of weeks from Byron. We've seen a little bit inconsistency in that 24 shell finally. But I'm fine backing him here. I'm going to dance with the devil once again. I don't win a lot of money on William Byron. When I win it, I throw it right back in. So let's go right back in. Let's continue to fade Christopher Bell here, Elliot.
Yeah, not a bad idea there. I really don't get how Bell's the favorite in that matchup. I mean, what have the books been looking at? He ran well here last year, but this is, especially for the way I look at things, it's more of what have you done for me lately type of deal, despite how well, it doesn't matter how well you ran last year. This is this year. So that one's just baffling.
Yeah. I'm glad I could find one that we can all kind of come together. Elliot, I know you have a group matchup here, so throw out your group before we move forward to the specials market, please.
Yeah, so I've got Caesars Group H here, and I can make an argument for a couple of these guys, but my favorite driver in this pick is Eric Jones. He's at plus 250 to finish ahead of the 10 of Almirola, who is a plus 225. I can kind of see the argument there. Ricky Stenhouse at plus 230. He would be my number 2 pick here. And then Austin Dillon is also at plus 250 in this group. So I like Jones here. Stenhouse a close second. You guys have any opinions on this group?
Man,
I love Jones. So if I think Jones is going to finish inside the top 10, he's going to beat all those guys.
Yeah.
Austin Dillon's been a little frisky lately sometimes, and he gets on these runs. He has a little bit better of a track record than people think. 5 top 10s here as well, 2 top 5s for AD. Mm-hmm. He's the only one I'm a little bit worried about that. But you know me, man. I'm also kind of been riding this Eric Jones hot hand lately. Last week to my detriment in fantasy. So I'm mixed on that. I'm a no contest, but I do like the number you're getting there from Jones.
Yeah, plus 250 is not too bad. And was that last year or 2 years ago where Dillon was running all right at the end of a stage and then just got turned by Keselowski or somebody, destroyed the car? That was a little unfortunate. But Michigan's, he's oftentimes we're very cold on Austin Dillon. This is a week where we can be a little warmer on him.
Yeah, and I think with Eric Jones too, like I'm pulling from Pocono a little bit. I think Pocono is a good comp track for this. And if he ran well like he did at Pocono, I think we could see him score one. So Rod, let's go over to the specials. Is there anything in this market that you found this week?
I did, in fact, but I want to update too, and thanks Ty Tiger too. A big fan of you guys in our Discord too for NASCAR Gambling Podcast. But if you want Logano on this one, on Superbook, it's -110. So that's even better of a price than the -125 that you're getting on Caesars. So just to update that, this is why you shop around. So for my specials, I'm going to kind of lump a couple of them in, and you could take let me see if you can parlay both of these. If you can parlay them, that's fantastic. No, you cannot. Thank you, Caesars, for not giving me a parlay option for this. All right, fine. So I will begin with the winning car number as even. I obviously think that Kevin Harvick is going to win this. He's an even car, right? You also get Keselowski in there. You get Busch in there. You get, let's see, if you want.
You get Almirola?
You get Almirola. I'm sorry, I skipped over him.
Yeah, you get Logano and Blaney. You get Bowman in the 48. You get Noah Gragson in the 42.
Yeah. So you get all these guys. So I think the even is coming from that anyways. Truex 19. Hey, Rod, what's an even number? +125. I like that. And then even if you want to get more specific, they've got the winning car number under 10.5, which has some pretty heavy hitters in that 10.5 range as well, right? So you've got obviously Kevin Harvick. You have got Chase Elliott. You have got Kyle Larson. So that's 3 heavy hitters right there. So I like under 10.5 at +160. And I also like even at +125 for the winning car number.
I love when like the numbers and the odd even and the over under lines up with your outrights, like because that's kind of when I like to attack it as well. I'm kind of off. I'm all over the place with car number this week, so I can't get invested in that, but I totally understand why you're throwing that one out there, Rod. If you're on Kevin Harvick, if you're on some of those lower number cars, now's the time. We got Ty saying here in the chat, thanks, Rod. I've been trying to listen in between when I can. You all are awesome. Here's the car number bet again. We appreciate it, Ty. We appreciate you tuning in, subscribing to the channel, man. We like to have fun over here. We appreciate getting Rod on when we can. I'm going to throw mine out quickly, and this technically is not a special, but I'm going to categorize it as a special because we're getting ballsy, baby. We're getting ballsy. Nutsack's coming back up on the table, and we're going to get a little weird here. We're going with, this is technically a placement prop, but I'm going to play as a special because I only have about 1/4 of a unit invested in it. Harrison motherfucking Burton. Top 10, baby. 12-1 sprinkle. I'm doing it. Jeb Burton. I need all the Burtons to rally around my boy Harrison this weekend.
Get Ward out of the woods. Bring him there too.
Absolutely. We need all the Burtons. Listen, he got a top 10 at Pocono. He got a top 10 at Darlington. These are higher speed tracks. 15th at Auto Club, also another one of our comp tracks. 18th at Charlotte. We're expecting Ford to run well here. I'm expecting this to kind of play out like how it did a couple weeks ago at Pocono. Maybe not as many helmets being thrown. Maybe not as much fuck is happening with Denny Hamlin, not lifting. But overall, I like Harrison Burton, and he has one Xfinity start here at Michigan. Cup Series starts have been dog shit, so don't look at those. But Xfinity start here, 1 top 5 in his 1 Xfinity start as well. So I like Harrison Burton here. I got on him one other time this year. Didn't pay off, but I think this is the week, boys. I think this is the Harrison Burton week for me. So Harrison motherfucking Burton, strap in, baby. Let's go. Elliot, close us out here with anything you like in the specials market.
Yeah, I've got a couple of specials here, and this first one feels like the slam dunk bet of the week to me. Ford is still the longest odds for manufacturer to win at plus 240. I mean, obviously that's not quite as far behind as they've been, but I mean, Chevy hasn't won here since 2017. Ford has won, the last 8 or whatever we said.
When
This
was
feels like an
Toyota's
absolute
last win
slam
here?
dunk.
It's been
Yeah.
forever since then, too.
Quite
It's
a while.
been, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Ford to win at plus 240 is damn near a slam dunk. Top 4, Joey Logano is at plus 275. I put him as one of my higher Fords in the tiers. I think that he's got a chance to run up front in terms of these Fords. Top Chevrolet, William Byron is at plus 325. We've been high on Byron lately. Obviously, he's run well this year. These are both decent in terms of top manufacturer, but I mean, Ford to win feels like the bet of the week for me.
Do you want to take a guess as to who the last Toyota to win on this track was? I guarantee you probably won't.
Do we get a year?
Do you want a
Was
year?
it-
I'll
Was
give
it
you a
all, was it all the way back to Brian Vickers in the 83 or not quite that far?
No, not that far
Not
back.
that far. Okay.
We'll give you 2015 was the last time a Toyota won on this track. We're talking
Oh,
almost
man.
10 full years, 10 full seasons. You're probably not going to get it. I wouldn't have gotten it. It's Matt Kenseth.
Oh, okay.
Wow,
Okay.
Kenseth
Okay.
is
Matt
one.
Kenseth. All right.
Kenseth.
All right. Always a little bit of Matt Kenseth love here. We got a little love in the chat from Didi. What's up, Didi? Good to see you. Also, we got Rod's podcast saying Rod is the car number bet goat. Yes,
That's
you
not my
are.
podcast. That's Derek's podcast.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Too many NASCAR betting and yeah, too much going on in the titles of these shows. We appreciate you tuning in tonight, Derek. That about does it for me though here, guys, for Michigan. I love what we're coming to the table with different bets each and every single week. I think we're on a lot of different varieties of manufacturers this week. I'm a little bit heavier on the Toyotas. Elliot, I know you're more back in the Fords this week, and Rod, you're kind of in that camp as well. So I'm excited to see how this all plays out in Michigan here. Rod, what do you have coming down the pike for us? Not just here at IBT, but just in general with all your sports gambling content, my friend.
Yeah, take a listen to the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. All 5 episodes should be out by Friday. Obviously, we've got everyone every day. DFS going off tomorrow, and bonus betting pick show actually going out tomorrow as well. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then check out my news show. It's called Fast Money. It's on the For Frequency's Sake network. You can find it on YouTube, and you can find it on my Twitter feed. I'm on X at RJ Gomez as well. Follow me. There's a link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's NASCAR Gambling Podcast, and of course, Fast Money. So check that out. It's a couple of fun little parlays every week to get you going through your racing weekend.
Don't tell your kids you're on X, Rod. Don't tell your kids you're on X. They might take that the wrong way. They might
still Twitter to me, damn it.
Hey, for us at IBT, though, we appreciate everyone in the chat tonight leaving us comments. We got Derek. Yeah, I apologize, Derek. Mixed up some podcasts tonight. Good to see you, man.
That
Fast
Busch
money,
light was
baby.
loaded tonight, by the way, Derek. That's what it was. That Busch light had a little extra. Maybe he's on X. I don't know.
I might be on X. Easiest way to support Ellie and I, though, subscribe to IBT Media here on YouTube. We got the website brewing. Ellie and I, we have our tiers rankings coming out each and every week. Ellie, what else do we have coming out? What else is going out in our world? We just put a shit ton of new blogs. We got that interview with Eric Jones and a couple other cool drivers out there as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks to everyone for the support on our Pocono content. It is pretty much winding down at this point. But of course, keep a lookout for blogs. There's always something fun happening in the NASCAR world, and Seth or I usually will pick up on it, write about it, throw out some writing for you. I'm sure there's maybe 1 or 2 of you out there who missed the column I used to write through the field. So don't worry, the writing's not gone, but we know you guys definitely enjoy the Backroad, and we're very thankful for the support each and every week for us here at In Between Media. Anything else before we send it home, Seth?
No, hey, just get ready, guys. Silly season is happening. We're hearing fucking rumors. SVG may be heading to the Cup Series. What's going to go down? We always say it. Keep your head on a fucking swivel. Now is the time. And the best way to keep your head on a swivel, subscribe to IBT Media. Check out the website. Make sure you're plugged in with Rod's content as well. Guys, we'll see you next time. We're going to give you the full Backroad intro on the outro since I messed that up in the intro. Take care, everyone.